So this interview is brought to you by the OYMI Music Festival, and we're at the beautiful Royal Conservatory of Music today, and we're so pleased to be joined by Dean James Anagnoson. Jim, thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure, Sam.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yeah. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and kind of sort of like the musical background and things like that?
Well, I grew up in Boston, and I went to New England Conservatory in the prep division. I went then into my undergrad at Eastman. It was at Eastman, I played in Boston, but at Eastman I got really passionate and serious about piano.
Right.
I mean, I played, but it wasn't my passion until I got to Eastman, and suddenly it was like all I wanted to do. So I went through Eastman, and I had a fantastic teacher, Eugene List. Went to New York, went to Juilliard for my master's. Met some other mentors, Claude Frank, and then Carl Schnabel in particular.
Amazing.
And I in New York years after Juilliard, I was getting my playing together because I always felt a little behind because I had gotten serious a little bit later than others had. So I always felt that I was doing catch up, and in my 20s I was catching up, and during those years playing for Claude Frank. And then I met Leslie Kinton, and I had met him in Aspen. I was living in Eugene List's house, and we said, let's do a 2-piano recital for the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, I flew up to Toronto, and we did 7-8 weekends. We rehearsed, chose a program, and we played, and we had the chance to play for Gina Bachauer, who's a very famous concert pianist, and she loved her playing. We actually sat down, and we just instantly clicked. Amazing. As a duo. I mean, I'd done a lot of chamber music and 2-piano, but with Leslie, we just, boom, we clicked. Amazing. And everyone really, many people heard it and said that we should. They encouraged us to do it professionally. And Gina Bachauer in particular, when she and Eugene List both said, when Eugene heard our recital, he said, he was giving us agents' names in London. You're playing at Wigmore Hall, and Jim, you're moving to Toronto, and I'm what? And I kind of trepidatiously moved to Toronto, not knowing what would come of it. And the minute I got here, I had lived my 20s in New York, which was fantastic. And the minute I got here, we just had many opportunities to play. And I started teaching at the Royal Conservatory at University of Toronto, but we really focused on the duo, and it just got all kinds of opportunities to play. And I think as I look at my life now, we got better every year. We kept learning, and we got the chance to play, and we would learn from playing. And at some point, I realized that I loved teaching as much as I loved playing. And I think I always had loved people, but I really realized how close the relationship is.
And of course, you've been, like you said earlier, you've been teaching for a long time.
Yep.
I understand that you was taught at Western.
I did. I took a job at,
Yeah.
I took a job at Western because I had a son,
Right.
and I thought, I really, freelance life, I loved our freelance life.
Right.
But I thought, having a kid is a whole different thing in terms of the need to have a stable
Absolutely.
income.
Yeah.
So I phoned somebody I knew at Western because we'd played there a lot, and I said, do you have any jobs coming up? And they said, well, we do. Are you interested? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we know you, we know you
Yeah.
inside out. If you want that job, it's really your job. So I
Wow.
took it, and I loved it, actually. I loved it. I did 4 years there. I built a class, and it's a
Yeah.
wonderful faculty. They have
Yeah.
really excellent, and I love that. And I really had to be convinced to leave that job to take. I never moved to London. I still lived in Toronto.
I see. So
But I went from that job to becoming dean here. But when I took the job as dean,
Yeah.
Peter said to me, you have to keep teaching. Don't stop teaching because you can. So I've always taught from the minute even though I've been the dean of the school.
Absolutely.
And I still do that. I mean, I love the teaching. Teaching is exhilarating. I mean, it's a privilege, really.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I know you prioritize teaching, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is the most important thing about teaching? I'm sure there's not just one single thing, but in terms of like how has that changed you, if anything? Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, I think what I realized I remember a student who I had taught at University of Toronto, and he graduated. We got the graduation award, Forsyth Award when he graduated. Grew into an excellent pianist, and I remember him writing me a letter 7 or 8 years later, saying, when I met you, my father had just died, and you had such an enormous impact on me for those 4 years. And I remember thinking, yikes, I had no idea that his father had done. I had no idea the impact we have on young people.
Right.
And now I absolutely know that impact.
Yeah.
And I think it's a privilege to be able to influence young people's growth
Yeah.
at a very formative time in their lives.
Absolutely.
And I was lucky to have certain people. Eugene List was an incredible role model for me, an incredible mentor in every way. So that's what I try to be as a teacher and as a mentor. And that's really a privilege to be able to do that.
And so our festival, the OYMI Music Festival, what do you think is the importance of like our competition, the OYMI Music Festival, and there are a lot of others, but what kind of role does it play for the young artists competing in that or taking master classes?
I think you as a player know that we need chances to play. The only way you learn to play well is you play.
Absolutely.
Under pressure.
Yeah.
So any festival that gives young artists with competition, I think of them more as always an opportunity to play. You should always improve from every time you play. And if it's a master class, obviously you get to work with somebody and you should learn. My students, we have, as you know, fantastic master class programs here. And I tell my students, you should be learning in the audience and you should be learning when you play. From every person that comes in, you can learn something. You should learn something. And in competitions and in this festival, that's what I would encourage them. The opportunity to perform is a growth opportunity, and you get feedback from people in the competition. That's an opportunity for you to see how did you impact someone. Did you reach them or did you not?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that our organization this year try to prioritize, getting artists such as yourself, Professor Zuch, and a lot of others, and Kelly Parkins Lindstrom, for example, that I've worked with.
Yeah.
And really, because somebody that all of the people that I was very inspired to work with. What do you think students can benefit from that? Having artists like yourself,
Yeah.
and others, such great artists.
Well, it really, when we do auditions, we just finished the audition cycle. And I've said many times that, well, we really don't disagree on where a person is in terms of the level of their playing. But we're not psychic, so you can't really guarantee what that person's going to do with that talent. And so as a teacher, and I know the same thing, so some people will learn, they're more open and they're able to look around and absorb ideas better. And that's what I would hope. That's why I do festivals like yours. I hope that I can bring ideas that young artists can look at and potentially integrate or at least think about. And that will make them better artists.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about Tony Yang.
Tony Yang.
Yeah. Somebody who went through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He did, Taylor Academy, indeed. Yeah.
And the 5th prize winner of the Frederick Chopin
Amazing, yeah.
International Competition. He will also be adjudicating at our festival.
Yeah.
So you know him for a long time,
Yeah.
and then I believe you worked with Lee as well.
Yeah.
And to have somebody, a young artist, but obviously an amazing professional.
Yeah.
So it's go through the program here, and then be in the same festival as you.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
I mean, I've known Tony. I've stayed close to Tony. I just love him. He's and I remember, Lee started him, and I would coach him once in a while, and so I watched Tony from the time he was just a little kid, and I remember. I mean, he's a good example of everything we've been talking about. You just didn't know what he would do.
Yeah.
And at one point, and I often feel, I don't know if Tony does, I haven't had this conversation with him, but I felt that when he went to the Bach-Hour competition, and he ended up getting second, and he could have had first. He got second because he hadn't practiced the concerto enough, and he went because he didn't realize he'd be playing it the next day. But I think he was maybe 12-ish, and I think he came back realizing he took himself more seriously. And suddenly the competitions, everything he did, I feel, as his teacher at that point, became more from him than from his parents.
Right.
And what I always loved in his playing, and love to this day, is Tony is a very creative and interesting, unorthodox player. I mean, you never quite know what Tony's going to do, which is a fantastic quality in his playing. I'm not sure that he knows. I mean, he plays he's got an intuitive side to him
Right.
that's just fantastic. So he's a lovely, lovely kid. I enjoyed every minute of our relationship together, and as I still see him and see what he's doing. So I love the fact that he's here doing. I'm at a point where I've taught. You see people at Tony's age, you see people at Lee's age, and you just want them to live successful and rewarding lives. I mean, I taught Stuart Goodyear when he was 9, 10, and knew even then what he would do. So to see him reach what he's reached, it's a privilege to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I live a very lucky life. I really do. It's a privilege to do it.
It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, great. Do you have any message for all the participants of the OYMI Music Festival this year?
Well, I would say congratulations for entering. Be sure you really prepare. Prepare with incredible dedication and discipline. Whatever you're doing, do more, because if you do that, you give yourself a better chance of playing well. And if you play well, you'll be happier with yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what we want. We want people to play well.
Well, the deadline for the vocal and piano category is March 21st, and for strings, it's April 12th. So please visit OYMI Music Festival website. And thank you so much for doing this.
It's a pleasure, Sam.
Yeah, it's been
a pleasure.
an honor. Thank you.
Nice talking to you. Look forward to hearing all of you young people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.